A live look at Capitol Hill right now, where orientation for the newest members of the 119th Congress begins this week as the GOP is on the brink of clinching control of the U.S. House. Now, if that happens, it's still a big if, ballots still being counted in California. President-elect Donald Trump, he has the Senate, he has the House, and he has the keys to that smooth road to realizing his policy promises. So this is Democrats are looking inward, doing some introspection about how they lost on election night and lost big at that. House Speaker Emerita Nancy Pelosi of the state of California, one of those being introspective. Here's something she's looking back on.
The president endorsed Kamala Harris immediately. That really made it almost impossible to have a primary at that time. If it had been much earlier, it would have been different.
So you heard it there, Pelosi looking backwards in time to primary strategy. But let's go live to CBS News political contributor and Democratic strategist Joel Payne. Joel, it's good to have you with us on the stream on a Monday or any day. So Vermont's Bernie Sanders says Dems abandoned the working class. California's Ro Khanna says Dems really did not have what he calls a compelling enough vision for the economy. What say you?
I'm not sure if the policy abandoned the working class, but certainly the message seems to have alienated the working class. And that's something that Democrats need to take a good hard look at and reevaluate. How are we putting these messages in front of these voters to help them understand that the policies that we believe in and that we're pushing really will make their lives better, especially when you compare them to what Donald Trump and Republicans want to do. It's very clear Donald Trump has been able to find a way to reach these folks. And I think Democrats, I like to say losses can be very clarifying. And this loss certainly will be clarifying for the party. There's a lot of work to do to rebuild the Democratic Party going into 2026 and 2028.
So introspection, rebuilding, and, looking forward, former Secretary of Defense Leon Panetta said that he thinks Republicans may show in the history books that they overplayed their hand and that could create an opening as soon as the midterms. What do you think the future of the Democratic Party looks like because of that introspection and maybe looking at things with clarity, like you say?
I think I tend to agree with Secretary Panetta's view on that. I think it's very likely that Republicans will overreach. They overreached in this election. It's just that voters decided that they kind of had a stubborn belief that Republicans had a better hand to play on the economy, and economic anxiety ruled the day. So I actually think that what Democrats are going to need to do is hold Republicans accountable to the mandate that voters actually sent them there with. They sent them there with a mandate to make them feel better about the economy. That means that Republicans shouldn't be doing things that are going to make the economy worse. You know what will make the economy worse? Deporting a bunch of people from this country illegally. You know what will make the economy worse? Putting tariffs in place that are going to be inflationary. And so I think you're going to expect to hear a lot from Democrats in terms of holding Donald Trump accountable. I think the last thing also is, for a long time, Democrats have treated Donald Trump as if he is this kind of virus that exists outside of politics. I think it's high time for Democrats to somewhat submit to and accept the fact that Donald Trump is as regular in politics as any other politician, and hold him accountable and treat him accountable like you would Mitt Romney, John McCain, George W. Bush. I think Democrats are going to have to reorient the way that we approach Donald Trump, focus on what he does less than what he says, or more than what he says.
Right. And do you think that could be a retooling in more social policy, like gay marriage, like abortion? Will we see less of an emphasis on those policy matters and more of an emphasis on people's wallets?
Well, I don't know any Democrat that wants to target communities, particularly these vulnerable communities. And by the way, I don't think that voters want to do that either. I think it would be a misread of this election to suggest that. Democrats ran on a similar message in 2022 of protecting those communities and did very well relative to expectations. I think that this election was an economic election, and I think Democrats are wise to focus on an economic message that reaches the working class. And I think they are also wise to focus on holding Donald Trump accountable on focusing on the economy. Anything Donald Trump does that doesn't focus on the economy feels like a vulnerability he's creating for himself. And I think Democrats would be wise to hold him to his word on that.
Well, and they also have a job to do. They have to fill a job by March 1st for party leader. Who do you see taking the reins?
Well, I assume you're talking about the Democratic National Committee.
Right.
Look, there are a lot of talented folks within the party. Jamie Harrison, I think, did a really solid job of kind of getting us through this Biden era to very abnormal time in Democratic politics. If I was looking for the next Democratic National Committee leader, I want someone who is a party builder at the grassroots level. You need a 50-state strategy. About 15, 20 years ago, Howard Dean took over the Democratic Party. And look, people have different opinions about what Chairman Dean did in that role. But one thing he did do, he executed a 50-state strategy. Democrats should not be seeding elections in places like Missouri, Indiana, Florida. Democrats need to field competitive candidates and competitive agendas in those places. And so that includes registering a lot to voters. That includes being on the ground, not just at election time, but right now. And so I want a party leader who is going to do that work now so that at election time, the trust is built and that voters understand that Democrats are working in their interest.
Joel Payne, CBS News political contributor. Always a great conversation. Thank you so much. We hope to have you back in the weeks ahead.